It is chain and sprocket day on the 2023 KTM 390 Adventure. Let's take a look at the mileage here. I have gotten 7,679 miles out of the stock chain and sprockets. And they are desperately due for replacement, especially the chain. You'll find that when your chain goes bad, it'll be really difficult to adjust because it'll have loose sections and then it'll have tight sections. So you'll make your adjustments and then you'll roll the bike, and all of a sudden what felt perfect will now feel tight, or it'll feel overly loose. And that's because the chains will wear and stretch unevenly. And it pretty much happens to all chains. It's your indicator that they're going away when you can't seem to ever get the adjustment right. That's a really good indicator that you got problems. So all that being said, I am going to be doing a brand new chain and of course brand new primary drive and rear wheel, brand new sprockets front and back. I would like to point out, I am not a professional mechanic. I'm just a guy who's worked on his own bikes for the last 40 years. So take that for what it's worth. Everybody's got their own methods. If you don't like mine, that's fantastic. You go do your own thing, but maybe you'll find some of this helpful. Let's see here. This is an O-ring chain that I bought from my dealership. I think it was, yeah, we can still see the price tag on it. Looky there. $178.92. I typically like to buy the chain and the sprockets, everything from the same place. I don't like having to buy one from one place, one from another, blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. It drives me crazy. I was pretty disappointed when I went to my dealer to pick up this stuff to do this, because this is actually a pretty common thing that you're going to have to do on your bike. They said, oh, we've got the chain for you, but we'll have to order the sprockets. And I said, well, I want to make sure I get a 14-tooth countershaft. They said, oh, I don't think we sell that. I don't think we can get that. And so after kind of going around in circles with the counter person for about 20 minutes, I gave up. So I just bought the chain, came home, and it did take me a little bit. I did a video last asking you folks where you got your chain and sprocket sets. Some of you said Amazon. Now, here's the problem that I have. I know that the 390 Adventure shares pretty much everything with the Dukes, with the Duke models within the same year range or close to it. But I hate buying something that doesn't specifically say it's for my specific bike. Even though I get it, the lineage, the family, how they all intermingle their parts and whatnot. I get all that. I understand all that. But I'm old school. I wanted to say specifically it is for my bike, because in the past I've had to return a lot of stuff that wasn't specifically for my bike, even though they said it would fit. I just ain't got the time or the patience for that kind of bullshit anymore. So unfortunately, I did end up having to go to another outfit to get my sprockets, which ended up to be Dennis Kirk. I ordered them online. I also got an air filter for it too, but I'm not going to do that in this video. Let's see here, $22. I'm trying to read this. $22 for the $22 for the rear, and $10.78 for the counter shaft. So they were really not that expensive. But again, I would have bought them from my dealer, even if it was higher price, because I try to support my dealer. You know, you want your brick and mortar stores to stay in business. So that's what we have right now. I am a little disappointed in the chain. I do prefer riveted chains. I don't like the traditional master link, even though I will have to compress this one anyway. This is the traditional master link type, which I really don't like. I like to be able to compress them and then rivet my master link on, and then you pretty much forget it. And the beauty of it is it'll wear pretty much at the same rate as the rest of the chain. The problem I found with this type, with the circlip type of master link, is that the O-rings and the grease that we're going to pack in here tends to get drawn out quicker, because there's really no compression that's really going to be holding that master or that plate in on that master link right there. So yeah, take good care of your chain, oil it regularly, and pay attention to that master link. You can take the master link back apart if you want to re-grease it at any time as well. So it's just really not a convenient thing for me. But at any rate, it will work. It's just not my favorite technique. Oh, and then there's also the fact that, you know, sometimes that circlip can fall off. I ended up going backwards down the highway one time for a guy, 20 miles looking for a master link that flew out of his chain, and it completely, obviously, derailed the entire chain off the bike. Luckily, it just laid it out underneath the bike, so it didn't damage the motorcycle, but you're still stuck without a chain. A lot of racers, they'll safety wire this on, they'll hot glue, they'll do all kinds of stuff to make sure that circlip stays in place. I'm just one of those people I'd prefer not to have to hassle with it if I don't have to. So tools for this, your basic hand tools are going to work for this, but however, you will have to compress that outer plate on that link set. And to do that, I have a link compressor here. This is a link breaker, and it's a compressor. It's for riveted chains. You can use it for just regular O-ring chains where you still have to compress that plate. It'll do pretty much all of it. It comes with a series of anvils. This one is old. I've had these tools here, these link breakers and compressors for, I don't know, 25, 30 years, maybe longer. So however you do, I've seen guys do it with vice grips. I don't recommend that because you usually end up mucking it up and never really getting it on tight because you can't hold it on. This device here is going to compress it so it really locks the links on. Let's see here. And then this old guy here, you can't really compress the links, but it is great. It is a link breaker. You just use it to bust your old chain apart, especially if you're using a riveted chain. If you just have a regular traditional circlip style, then you can just pop the circlip off and you're done. But if you do not, if you have a riveted chain, this will easily bust them off. And riveted chains, we really started using them a lot in the 90s. That's actually probably when I bought that one, was way back in the 90s. Otherwise, for this, we're just going to be using our basic ratchets and some of our Allen heads here. Just our Allen head here, another one here. Let's see here, what are my sizes on? This is 6mm there, and this one is 5/32. Why the hell did I grab that? I gotta go back and get the right one. I've got too many tools. 8mm. I got a 22mm for the axle, 17mm for the axle. I've got a 14mm here. One of the things that I do when I start this is when I know I'm going to be taking my rear sprocket off, I'll break these loose while they're on the bike. It just gives me a little bit more leverage, and it makes it a little easier for me to get them off of there. Sometimes if the wheel is off the bike, you gotta kind of secure it because they can be pretty tight, just like that. See? Now I do have an impact I could be using right now, but I'm a man. Ugh, I like to suffer. So there it is. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Now, incidentally, I have already loosened up my axle nut, my adjusters. Actually, I need to run this one out a little bit. I gotta run that one out further. I do like these axle adjusters. Once you get them locked in, they really set good, and they're really easy to access compared to some of them. And, you know, those old eccentric adjusters, I don't know if you still see those on bikes much anymore. They kind of look like a half moon with notches in them. Those are okay, but I found that when people would use those type, they would just barely loosen up their chain and then start smacking the adjusters with a hammer, you know, and forcing the axle into the next position. These kind I really like. This is a really good positive connection right there. So I really like that part. Now we're just going to break the axle loose here. I do have a nice race stand and spools that I do all this stuff on. It'd be a real pain in the butt to do these without a nice stand. And I think this stand was from Amazon. My wife got it for me for Christmas. And the spools, I think maybe together they might have been $100 all total. So pretty inexpensive, and they really make things good for you, easy for you. Whoops-a-daisy. When I take all of this stuff apart, I'll reassemble like this. So I've got the actual spacer block here, and then the washer, and then the nut. And I just set them like that in a stack on that side of the bike so that I know exactly who goes where. Now, I'm gonna leave it assembled right now because I'm gonna use my link breaker on here. I gotta see, I don't believe there is a traditional master link. I believe this is a riveted chain. And I got a lot of miles out of this chain. I know a lot of people replace these almost immediately because they're definitely not the best chain. They're pretty cheap. Let's call them inexpensive. How's that? That's a little bit more delicate way to put it. So as I'm rolling it around, I am not seeing a traditional master link. But if you look at the chain, you can see how the links don't necessarily line up really well. They're kind of binding. And that's another sign that they're out of grease. O-rings get dry, they get heat cycled over and over and over again, and all that grease, it's supposed to seep out. It's what lubricates that interface there. But of course, once they're out of grease, they're out of grease. And you have to replace them. So I will use my old link breaker here. I'm gonna turn it down here a little bit. I'm just gonna go right out here in the middle of the run somewhere. This old thing is kind of handy. It's a little bit crude, but it's usually pretty effective. You just squeeze it open and lock it onto the link like that. It just kind of locks itself on there. And then you just start turning it, and it'll push that guy through if you can get it to lock on. Come on now, get on there. Get back in there. And I have two of these, so if this one isn't successful, I have another one up there that I already showed you that I'll use. Now I do have a bike lift too, but I had to move it outside. The cylinder is bleeding off, so it won't hold the bikes up. So I just pulled it out. Okay. Now squeeze it. See, it's pushing that pin out. I think way back when I bought this, it was, I think way back then in the 90s, it was kind of an expensive tool for me. I think it might have been $25 or $30 or something. I know that now people don't even, that's a joke if your tool only costs that, but back then, you know, I was just making a young welder's income, so I wanted to spend the money on the bike parts, not on the tools. All right, and there you go. Just that easy, it just pops that apart. So it's old, but it's still effective. And the O-rings here, yeah, they're pretty dry. Yeah, everything in here is pretty dry. But that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. So, bike's in neutral. We can just roll it forward here. I can run it out the front or I can run it out the back. It doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and make sure we get the other part of the link off there. Yard it through like such, and it'll just discharge all the way at the back there. Just like that. And that is off to the scrap pile. Comes apart pretty quick though. And yes, I did take good care of that chain. It was lubricated regularly, always cleaned off, riding in a lot of the dirt stuff. But I'll be honest with you, that chain and sprockets, they were probably completely shot before I did the Alpine Loop last year with my brothers. I didn't have a lot of time. I was super busy at work. I didn't have time to replace all of that. Ordinarily I wouldn't have trusted that old chain on that kind of a trip, but I'm kind of a thrill seeker anyway sometimes. Hell, just riding with my maniac brothers makes me a thrill seeker. All right, chain is off. Rear sprocket nuts are loose, so they should be really easy for me to get off when I pull that off the back of the bike. You can take the chain guard off if you want, right here. It's just a couple of simple little Allen head fasteners on it. You can take it off if you want, or leave it on if you want for this procedure here. I'm just going to leave it on. I don't really see a point in taking it off, other than maybe if you wanted to clean it out or something. But I am not overly concerned with that. Now we're going to come up here, front sprocket. We're going to take these all loose. And for some reason, they decided to mix and match on the front wheel, on the front sprocket cover there. They put regular, this is 8mm here, and I did already crack those loose, I think, except that one. Those loose. Just like that. And then we got the 6 up here. And if you notice, when I work on this kind of stuff, I usually use stubby wrenches. And the reason I use stubbies is that when I go to put all this together, I don't over torque, any of these little simple fasteners. And yeah, I know I can put a torque wrench on all of this stuff, but yeah, I'm not going to hassle with the sprocket cover bolts and a torque wrench. And there goes that spacer. That always falls out, and I gotta see if I can find where that went. Let that treasure hunt begin. All said and done to do this, you could probably expect to spend an hour or so on it. If I get done, faster than that, it might be just because I've done it a few times. I have not changed the sprockets out on this. I haven't changed the whole set out. I have changed the primary drive. I did that like the first week I owned the bike because the stock gearing is just too tall for my liking. And I'll stick with this gearing for the life of the bike. It's a really good compromise, if you ask me, for performance and rideability. Oh, I think I heard it fall. Come on now. Oh, it's getting stuck in there. Okay. If first you don't succeed, get a bigger hammer. There we go. Shift that down, move a little bit so you can get that cover out of there. And find the spacer. I heard it fall. Dang it. I might have to find the flashlight first. That's okay. So now, we did click the bike down into gear. There's our sprocket. Now you can see that this is definitely an aftermarket sprocket. The stock one comes with a looks like a rubber dampener. And I think I actually even have, yep, there's the stock sprocket right there. And that's a 15. And they have that rubber dampener. I haven't noticed a difference in rideability or sound or usability, comfort, nothing. It's all been pretty good. I'm sure that stupid thing probably fell down and landed in that skid plate, and I gotta go on a treasure hunt to find it. All right, we'll worry about that later, as long as I don't forget. Okay, so now Right here, all we have is these two bolts. I believe they're 8 mm. Let's put that on there, give that a shot. Yep, 8 mm. And I think I've seen this before. People will ask about their sprockets because they're loose. They're like, oh my God, my sprocket's loose. What's wrong? What's going wrong? Well, absolutely nothing is going wrong. When you think about it, there has to be play in the system. The back sprocket is going to be hard bolted to that wheel, and it needs to stay in that plane. It's not going to change really. So this front one has to be able to play around a little bit. It's got to be flexible, basically. Your chain is never going to run absolutely perfectly true. You can get it as close as humanly possible, but there's always going to be some play in this system. There has to be play in this system. If there weren't play in this system, the alignment between this sprocket and the back sprocket would probably, let me rephrase that, the misalignment between them, even if it was very slight, would eat up that chain in a big fat hurry. So keep it a little bit loose, just like that. And that is normal. There's nothing wrong with that. And incidentally, it has been that way on every motorcycle I have worked on since the 80s, and before that, because those bikes were older than that too. So there we go. I think we got the sprocket in view. So I'm in gear right now. I got to be in gear. These typically aren't going to be super hard torqued. They don't have to be. They're little tiny screws. There we go. See that? That little tiny wrench took that loose. There. Just like that. Little tiny guys, I'll put that there with the other. Now, so obviously this front sprocket is an aftermarket, and you would think it was manufactured with maybe better materials than obviously the inexpensive cheap drive that they put on this. Even though that may be the case, I'm going to replace it. I replace them all as a set religiously. That's what I do, and I'm not going to change. So yeah, it's a little more expensive, but what was it, $12 or something? It's really more the time it takes me to do it. So then what really holds this sprocket on is this keeper right here. It's a spline shaft, and it's got the opposing splines on that keeper right there. And so basically they misalign when they bolt up, like right there. To bolt this together, the splines are not lined up. And that's what keeps that sprocket from coming off like that. It holds it there. So you turn it a little bit, one direction or the other, up or down, until you find the alignment in the splines. And yeah, they're dirty. Everything in here is a little dirty from being used. So just keep wiggling it and finding that sweet spot till it's good enough that you can pop it out. If it's too mucked up, you might end up getting a little flat blade or something behind here and just kind of wiggling it. Nothing hard, no big forcing actions, just a little wiggle, wiggle. Little wiggle, wiggle here and there. And still kind of gummy. We can keep rotating a little bit. See how I'm completely misaligned now? That's okay. It'll do that. That's fine. So that's a little mucked up. I'll get a flat blade, get a little wiggle action. I've got these little tiny screwdrivers that I've used for stuff like this forever. This little one is probably as old as my chain breaker up there. But they fit these little tiny spaces. Come on now. That feels like a good spot right there. Little wiggle, wiggle. Little wiggle, wiggle. So we're getting there. We just got a little bit of filth in there built up. See, you can tell I don't pre-do all of this. A lot of people will do the entire thing and then tear it all apart and then make the video. Not me. You'll be doing it exactly as I'm doing it, fresh for the first try. Fresh on the first try. Gives you a more accurate representation as to what you're going to be in for. Rather than some guy going, look, see how easy it is? Come on now. Come on. And now let's go up into neutral so we can rotate a little. In the top here. Yeah, I suppose you could spray degreaser or something else in here. I don't like doing that. There we go. It's just the buildup of gunk. That chain is always releasing its grease, and it gets slung up here, and then of course, there we go. Then of course the chain lubes that I use and everything. And that's pretty much it. See all those little teeth in there? And that's it. As far as side significance goes, with these, I took it off from the factory just like that, and I put it on just like that. You see, there is a little bit of irregularity here, and so I made sure that when I removed it, I just simply returned it to how the factory setting or the factory installation looked. And so that's all I'll do again. And now we'll just wiggle that guy right off, and that's it. Primary drive sprocket is loose, and it is actually in. Yeah, it's starting to. Smooth out that side. You can see it on the drive side, how it's getting smoothed off there. But that's what they're for. They're supposed to wear. It's a wearable item. And I'd be surprised if it didn't wear. Now we got the brand new one, and I think that this is the same manufacturer as that, those JT sprockets. Let's see here. Yeah, JT. There we go, nice and brand new. So, side significance here. Well, there really isn't any, but I always put them with all of the information facing out so that I can read it from the outside. And let's see here, what's this telling us? Yep, 1908 JTF 14, so that's the size. And I think that's the part number. And we're about to see if they sent me the right one. Yep, looks like it. There it is, and it just pops back on by hand. Just that easy. And now we'll return this guy, the retainer. Just like that. Slips in. And so obviously, anytime you don't see those holes lining up, that means you are not fully recessed. Your keeper is not in its groove yet. So just like we did some wiggling to get it off, we'll do some wiggling to get it on. Maybe a little tap of the butt of the screwdriver. Nothing major. There we go. See that? And voila. We are misaligned. So let's rotate here and see where we come out there. So we do have significance there. But that's how the factory put it, and that's how I put it. I'm going to put it back into gear here. Thread these little guys back on. And I will look up the torques back on these. It's going to be very low, whatever it is. Just based on the size of the bolts, it's going to be pretty low. A little bit of tightness on there. Voila. And so the primary is done. Just like that. Now, when I changed this out, when I first bought the bike, I didn't take the chain off. I didn't do any of that. I just simply loosened it all. And then I took the retainer loose, popped the retainer off, and I pulled the sprocket and the chain out kind of as a unit, far enough that I could fish the sprocket out. Then I put the new one in, fished it back in, back on alignment, done. You don't have to break the chain loose. You don't gotta take the wheel off. You just have to you do have to slack the adjusters off on the back. And that's about it for those. Now then, we got to do the rear sprocket. I'm going to take that off. So I would give a word of caution because we are gonna be taking the whole back wheel off, and that means that my disc over there on that side is going to be exposed, and exposing that disc, and especially having to lay it down, I have to make sure that whatever I lay it down on is going to be soft. I'm not going to put any pressure on it. I'm going to be pretty delicate with that disc so as not to damage it and ruin your back brakes. But let's see here now. I'm going to set the camera back down. And I do shoot these all in real time. I don't edit them. I probably should. My videos wouldn't. Maybe they'd get like 1 billion views. If only he would have edited them. I don't give a shit. They're fun to do, and I hope that some people find them valuable. Or at least entertaining, if not valuable. Now, forewarned, every time I've had to pull this back wheel and realign it to get that brake caliper on that other side, it's a pain in the ass. So, fair warning. And I believe there are spacers in there that try to walk away from you. So one of the things that I'm doing right now, maybe you can or you can't see on the camera, is that I put my foot underneath the wheel, underneath the tire, and then I'll basically kind of adjust the tire up and down with my foot. Here, I gotta show you that though, it's kind of funny. There's my foot. Yes, I do have my sandals on, but this is what I do. I just lift with my toe like that. And that's actually how I'll put the wheel back on, too. Old habits. I've been doing this shit for 30-odd years, man. Maybe even longer than that. But that's how I do it. I'm sure other people have pretty goofy ways that they do it, too. It's not just me. I'm not the only crazy person out there. Come on now. Let's let loose. Boy, I don't know why it's bonding up pretty good in there, though. Let's go back here. There we go. You gotta get the perfect foot angle. It's all about the foot angle, people. No fancy tools, just the right foot angle. There we go. That's lovely. Voila. And we'll throw some lube on that too before we put this all back together. And now we'll go over here to witness spacers falling out. Yeah, it didn't fall out. Well, looky there. Good luck. Good for me. Yep, stayed right in there. All right, well, good. We're at a good stopping point right there. I'm just gonna take that sprocket right off, right where it sits. I don't have to lay it down on the other side, which is good. I did not think I would have clearance to do it, but I do, so bonus. Some people would use this opportunity to really clean the wheels up, do all of that stuff. I tend to ride my bikes more than I tend to clean them. And that's what I'll do with this. All right. And this is why I pre-loosened them. This right here. So these tires that I use, these Trail Max Raids, if you can afford them, get them. They are absolutely fantastic tires. I just love these tires so much. Until you hit 80 and you start crossing the little squiggle line in the middle of the lanes, and they start to get a little squirrely, but anything below that, they're fantastic. Pavement, dirt, mud, rock, doesn't matter. They're wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They are kind of hard to get for this bike though, with that odd size front wheel. But I see the new 390 Adventure. I keep seeing some postings about that bike, but I don't know if KTM's going to last long enough for it to make it to the market. I'm not sure what's going on with KTM. I keep hearing all this bankruptcy talk and all this other stuff, so who knows. I sure hope they do. Take this bike with better suspension, and yeah, I think it would be really good. The suspension is, yeah, it's definitely the weakest point of this bike. It does not take a lot of beating, a lot of abuse. It doesn't absorb it well, let me just say that. And there's the stock rear. Yeah, and it was getting some wear. It was wearing pretty good. You know, if the chain can sit there and kind of flop around on those teeth, that's where you get that chunkiness from, and that's where you also get premature wear. There's all that shock loading and kind of grinding, if you will. You'll see the recesses on this side though, so those recesses, make sure those go underneath the nuts. Remember how you took something off, so you remember how to put the new part on. And this is another JT sprocket. Now, first thing I notice, I'm going to point it out to you, is those recesses I was just talking to you about. Brand new sprocket, no recesses. Factory sprocket, recesses on the outside. So what do? Oh shit, what am I going to do? Well, not going to worry about it. We know that the manufacturer wanted their sprocket to be seen, so this is going to be the outside. I don't need those recesses to give me side significance. I know that this is going to be the outside. And if some of you disagree with that, tough shit. It's going to be the outside now. Oh yeah. Happiness is new chain with sprockets and new tires. All those things. Now I'm not going to torque these till I get it all back on the bike. You can torque them right now if you want or whatever, but I'm not going to. I don't usually do that until I have some secure way to really hold everything. And I know some people have way better garages than me. They got stands and mounts and fixtures to hold everything perfectly. I ain't got all that, so. Again, just the stuff that works for me. It may not work for you. And right there, these are a form of a lock nut. They're not the type that has like the UHMW plastic insert. They have an actual spring collar in them, which is a real nice thing to have on something as critical as your rear sprocket. If this guy lets loose, then it's going to do a lot of damage to your bike and possibly, obviously, take you down in the process. There we go. And now, on the other side, to make sure that the base is visible. All I'm doing right now is I'm just taking my screwdriver into the caliper and I'm just making sure that the brake pads are right out where they should be. So when I go to try to put this back up in there, I'm not hitting brake pads wondering why it won't go. Some axle grease here on the rear axle after I wipe it down, clean it off. It's actually in really nice shape though. Don't see any signs of rusting or unusual wear or anything freaky or weird. No pitting, that's good. Very nice. Yep, I'm just gonna put some of that on there. It does have sealed bearings in the rear end, in the rear wheel. And so really the grease on here helps to put it together and keep it from rusting, because sometimes water gets in past those races. And now for the fun part. Let's see here. I gotta get this all up in there. Make sure that's where it needs to go. This is the delicate balance now, just because getting it up into the caliper can be a real pain in the ass. So let's see if I can do it without too much heartache and headache. And the spacer, because I got a spacer over here too. Get the good old wheel on the toe here. A bit of lifting. Yeah, it's just that stupid outside spacer and then the alignment with the brake pads that make it tricky. And you can take the caliper off if you want. You can roll it forward. Well, the top part of it, you can roll it forward, I think, but usually I can get it right here. I just have to cuss and whine and bitch about it for a while, and I can usually make it happen. And there's a big locator out here too, a big pin. Okay, now I got that up in there. Let's rotate here, back, see where we're at, if we're even close. You need to come up a little bit more. There we go. Little wiggle wiggle. Alright, come on. So I got pretty good alignment going over here. Oh boy, look at that. Got it on the first go. Woo! Celebrities are going to be calling me at home now, asking me how I did it. I'm sure senators and congress people are going to want my endorsement. He got his axle to line up on the first try. That guy's a genius. Okay, remember I kept those all in the assembly on the other side in their order that they go back on. So there we go. Boom, boom, boom. Now, I mentioned earlier about the counter shaft sprocket actually fitting kind of loose on there, and the importance of it, because we have to have flexibility. Even though the rear sprocket does bolt solid to the hub, it does have a cush drive inside. And that's those funny little rubbers you'll see when you take the hub off. Those little rubbers in there, they're called a cush drive, C-U-S-H, cush drive, which is a softener. On dedicated dirt bikes that just spend all their time on the dirt, it'll be a solid connection. There won't be a cush drive. You don't need it because the dirt gives. The dirt allows the wheel to slip. Pavement, on the other hand, with super grippy tires like this, wheel's not going to slip. And so it can really start to eat up your drive if that back wheel can't have some give in it. It's got to have some flexibility. It's got to have some give. Think of all the dynamic forces that are being applied to this, especially when you're going down the road, when you're taking off, or when you're hard accelerating. There's a lot of forces at play here that are trying to break your bike. So you put soft things in there to help that, to help keep that from happening. Okay. Now, we're going to go with the chain. because it is a brand new chain, I lay something down on the ground so that my nice new chain, even though my garage floor isn't super dirty, I'm gonna give it something to set on here because I like to feed them through the back, over the front, and then down. There. Just like that. Now, I always start with the best of intentions, and then at some point everything goes to shit. So we'll see if we can keep that on there. It's a nice new, look at that pretty gold chain. Wow. Man. Yep, the celebrities are going to be calling again. Where did you get that beautiful gold chain? Okay, and that's right there through the chain guard. Be careful where your fingers are at, that you don't pinch your finger in this menagerie. All right, and now I'm gonna click the bike back into neutral because I need that front sprocket to rotate. This is usually the only time this thing shifts into neutral with any ease. But I did notice it does tend to shift to neutral easier with a well-adjusted chain, or with a properly adjusted chain, should I say. I don't want people to take the word well as meaning a very tight chain, because that's not what I mean. Okay, rolling over, coming through, good, good, good. And there we are. Now, let me see here. This chain was supposed to be proper length. From the dealership, it's supposed to be the correct length. I think it's 120 links. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a dry fit. I'm going to slip the master link in and see if the chain will take up. If it won't take up, then that means I've got to break some links out of it to get it to the right number of links that the factory states. And I'm currently not 100% certain. When I go to the dealer and say, give me the chain that fits this bike, they might have just given me the right pitch, but not necessarily the right length. So, these master links, they come with, these kits, should I say, come with the chain lube. So before I actually assemble this, I'm going to have to add that grease in there and basically get it all lubed up nicely and then compress it and reassemble it. Don't lose any of those parts. Nothing is unimportant in there. Everything is for something. Okay. So I'm just going to put this in here and in there because something tells me that is a bit long. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Oh, but look how flashy it is. So we'll pull this guy back in the carriers here. Pull it all the way back if I can. And that side is pretty far. This side is pretty far. Pull it all the way back. And we look at it now. It is absolutely 100% too long. So I'm going to have to break that down. And I'm going to have to break that size down. And that means I'm going to make video number 2 as soon as I find out what the correct count is. See you in a few.